Hello YouTubers, Charles here, back playing more program. And I've got a rocket very similar to the one we used to return ore from the moon. This time we're gonna try to get ore from Minmus. And I've made a few updates to this, because not only are we gonna try to get 600 units of ore from Minmus, which is filling up both of these tanks here. We're also going to build a new surface outpost, and this will be it. Basically, need a docking port. And need to generate power, but we already had antennas. But it needs to also hold 4,000 units of liquid fuel. So to do that, we had our main tank here, which held about 1,400 units. And then with these four that hold, well, together a little over 1,200 units, and then these four, which hold 1,600 units, we should. This is just liquid fuel, where this is liquid fuel and oxidizer. It doesn't say anything about oxidizer, so that should be more than plenty. The thing is, only this center tank is fueled. These are going empty, and these are going empty. We'll have to mine ore and fill the other tanks. But that shouldn't be a problem. We also need to have 8 Kerbals, so we have a second hitchhiker canister here. So that will be 9. Well, 11 if you... 1 in the cupola module. 4 in each of the hitchhikers, 2 in the science. Actually, count 1 in the command pod there. I'm only, though, sending Verica. We don't have the scientists at the time, and this is going to be near half of our current funds. So this better make it. That's why we're actually trying to do 2 contracts. One alone isn't enough to pay for this ship, but both together should easily pay for it. I think actually the surface outpost does pay us close to that, but this is only like 250,000. But together we'll make a profit if we can get both of these done. Which actually makes me think of one thing. I probably have to actually look up here. No. Let's disconnect that. And then put another decoupler on here, because that was basically our problem last time, was we ran out of a blader, and so I'm going to stick a second ablator on here, second heat shield. And I did add extra fuel, even though coming from Minmus, there's less gravity, so it should be an easier return. Let me empty that out, because we don't need the fuel until we get to Minmus, and we can make it once we're there, assuming we land in a good spot, which I'm actually not sure if we have a map. I think we do have a map of fuel on Minmus. The rest of this rocket is all the same. Yeah, it's a little heavier now, but most of the stuff is empty, so it's not like we have extra fuel weight. It's probably less than... It's definitely less than 10 tons. It's probably less than 5 tons heavier. Although I couldn't really say if it is, because I don't know the weight of the previous design. We're 827 tons total and 208 parts. So let's fly this thing. And you're getting staged first. And if I remember correctly, I'll have to throttle down a bit to actually have that happen. So let's save this and let's launch. Okay, we are here on the launch pad, and actually I have to admit that this isn't my first launch attempt. You may or may not have noticed that when I put the second ablator in, that the stage that the separator was in was actually this first liquid booster stage. So when I dropped those, it also dropped the whole return craft, or at least the top of the return craft. The engine was still attached, and of course that's not what we want. So I corrected that, and I also fixed a few things, like I put some struts here because these weren't strutted, and so we're kind of wobbling back and forth as we lift it off. But other than that, this is the same craft. I've just had one test launch. So let's get everything together here. Turn on SAS. Actually, let's go to the map, and it's dusk. The sun is setting, or has just set. Let's pull up our nav ball here and head back, and let's throttle up and lift off in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Lifting off pretty nice. Let's tilt over about 10 degrees or so, so that we start heading east. And let's turn on the lights because it's dark out. I'm going to throttle down so we get these solids running out, solid before our liquid boosters. And we actually don't need to get going that fast yet. We're slowing down slightly, but we'll speed back up as we use up fuel. Alright, here goes those solids. And let's throttle up. And the liquids are going to go. I'm actually going to turn towards our direction of travel and then drop them. There we go. They kind of slid along the wings, fins. They're fins. Alright, we're going to tilt over a bit more now. Because really, we want to get going horizontally, not vertically. That's how you get into orbit. So we're going to hold about 45 here for a bit. And let's check on our trajectory so far. It's coming up. It's about 30 kilometers in just a minute here. We're going to get that up to about 80, 85. And we want to be slowly... What does our orbit look like? We want to be slowly turning over here. But again, we do want to get up to about 80, 85 eventually. Alright, we're going to actually be staging here in a second. And those come away nicely. And we are down to our main engine. And yeah, we're actually coming up pretty good. Let's tilt over some more. $20 should be fine, I think, for the rest of this. We'll get this, let's say, 85, and then we'll throttle off and coast up to our apoapsis. We actually got high enough to see the sun, but it's going to set again rather quickly. Here we go. We're coming up. 81, 82, 83, 84, and throttle down. Alright, we are pretty stable here. We're about 10 kilometers from actually getting into space. Let's add a maneuver here to circularize our orbit. And something like that should be good, about another 700 meters per second or so. I'm gonna tell my rocket to hold prograde, because that's going to be close to where this burn needs to be. I'm turning on RCS just to give more maneuverability. And everything looks good. We have our return craft. Alright, we got about a 45-second burn, so I'm going to start, let's say, 25-ish. 22, 23 really should be. Alright, go prograde again. So you're nosing up a bit, and we're going to start burning now. And yeah, that lets it really hold direction. Let's check the map here. And that's about good. 94 by 75. Yeah, I probably should have nosed down a bit more, but we're in orbit. And we have, like, a lot of fuel left. That was actually a rather efficient launch. Didn't have nearly that much fuel in my previous attempt. It was actually up here when I noticed that we were missing the top of the rocket. So, let's see what we can do from here. Well, we want to get to Minmus, so let's set it as our target. And it's just about at its high point of its orbit, which means it should be getting close to our well, the ascending node of, so we shouldn't have to correct too much for angle. We should be able to just kind of get in there. Let's add a maneuver here, because I don't think we'll be able to get something before we have to go around the orbit. Oh, look at that. We actually have an intercept, and we're a little below, but that is okay, because we can... How do I put a maneuver on the yellow line? I don't want one on the green line. Well, that's interesting. Alright, we'll do this burn. And then we'll set up a small correction. I mean, we're probably going to need one anyway. While we're here, we can extend some small solar panels. Let's turn off RCS. We don't need... Well... Let's turn RCS back on and tell it for stability assist. And we want to point at our maneuver, which is just under 30 minutes away. That should be pretty good for our initial alignment. Alright, we're doing good on fuel. We're using some electric charge, but hey, we're trying to hold position, and we got some lights on. And we're not in the sun. So let's time warp here. Get out from behind Kerbin. There we go. Nice solar power. Charged up. We have a few minutes left before this burn. A little more. Don't need to be that early. Alright. Well, we're going to start the burn at about 22 seconds to go, so we have a little under a minute. We got to line back up because we came offline, or out of line, while orbiting around. Alright, that's pretty good. We got about 10 seconds to the burn. So let's get ready to go. And go. Pretty good lined up. Alright, I'm gonna throttle down here. And at this point, I'm gonna use RCS to get the last little bit. Alright, let's bring our periapsis down, which is what we want. You know, we're just gonna call it there. And it's still blinking a bit, but we can help fix that, I think, by adding a maneuver here, and that's just gonna get us a lot closer. No, that was a little too far. That would be great at about 40 kilometers. And look, that's only... that can hardly be called a burn. That's just over 11 meters per second. Well, just under 12. It's probably a little more accurate. So let's try to get oriented correctly for that. I mean, that may be a complete RCS burn, because with this engine, that would be like less than 1/10 of a second. Let's actually hold normal. I got something else orbiting nearby us. Probably debris. I don't want to turn that on. Alright, so that's roughly the right direction. Alright, let's... call that good enough for now. And warp to next maneuver. That's a few days away. So we are leaving Kerbin and the moon, and here we are. We now need 12 meters per second for this burn. Let's turn on RCS. And I'm just going to start the burn now using only RCS. It's going to be a little slow. You can see we're only getting 1/10 of a meter per second every 2 seconds or so. But this is going to be the most accurate way. And we have plenty of RCS we're probably using up 3 units of RCS per 1/10 of a meter per second. But since we have 500 units, and I'm hoping we only need like 100 or so for landing, so we'll be much more maneuverable at that point. And we're down to about 8 meters per second to go. So 1/3 of the way done. We have used up a bit of monopropellant, but we still have more than half. So we're about at the halfway mark. Not seeing the intercept, but I know it has to be there. We're just improving things. Down to 400 units left of monopropellant and 4 meters per second. Let's turn on stability control and nose over more. Can we nose over more? How to let go of the forward thrust. Alright, reapplying forward thrust as we rotate. And we're pretty close. Okay, we are showing an intercept again. And we're getting that pretty far down. "40 kilometers. We can go from there." It's gonna be a interesting intercept. Not quite sure how we're coming in. And we have 260 units of RCS. That should be plenty for landing. Alright, this is getting a little long, but I do want to get into orbit before ending. So I'm going to warp here, which will be into the influence of here comes Minmus. Alright, so we're coming up and not quite over the pole, but at a decent angle here. So let's add a maneuver and slow down to get into orbit. And that'll be a nice low circular orbit. And while we're here, let's how do I do this? There we go. We can now show the aura amounts. Ooh, there, that's a nice. And these are the areas with large aura amounts. I'm thinking the red is the most. And this will actually have us passing over a few good locations. Yeah, the redder it is, the more ore. So we could actually probably land over here, but first we need to get into orbit. And we have a burn in 2 hours. Let's turn on RCS and tell it to point retrograde. That should be the direction that the burn is in. Let's turn off RCS. Except we're probably gonna swing past. Let's turn it back on. Yeah, that was not good. The SAS, not that it's bad, but if it needs to turn, I wish it would like limit itself to like a degree a second or something like that. You know, because it gets moving, it keeps thrusting and thrusting and thrusting, and then it shoots past where it was going. So with SAS off, I'm going to keep rotating, but I'm rotating towards the point. I'm not using any fuel. I just need to turn SAS back on when it gets to the correct direction to stop the rotation. Alright, that's getting close. Alright, I'm turning SAS back on, telling it to hold retrograde, and actually I'm turning off RCS because, well, turn it on to begin with, but once it starts moving back, like it is now, I'm turning it off because don't want it to get going too quickly. Alright, we're doing pretty good there. Let's time warp to next maneuver, and we're just coming in. And we got about a minute for a 5-second burn. There's our current base. And we'll get all lined up here. And we'll do this burn. And then the episode. And, next time we'll land and try to return some more. Alright. That is looking good. Let's switch over to here. And I'm only going to throttle up to about halfway or so, and let's start that now. And stop. 58 by 40. Well, that's good enough. So we are coming around, and yeah, there's maybe able to put down over here. Maybe we'll do an orbit or two to get over that a little bit better, but I think that's going to be an episode. We're in orbit around Minmus, and we're ready to, well, make a new base and gather some ore. And we still have a full fuel tank here, so that will really help us for starting our landing. Probably have to dump some of that, but we'll see what happens next time. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you then with more Kerbal Space Program.